Aloha, Nityanandam. I know I'm starting quite a bit late. It's been a very intense day of all kinds of things. Uh, so, thank you for your understanding and bearing with me. I'm gonna do the tech check. And this is gonna be a very interesting thing because of the amount of content that needs to be digested. Um, it gets very interesting being me, that's for sure. Oh, what's going on? Is everything going okay? Okay, here we go. Let's start with communion oneness prayer. You're welcome to say the prayer of your tradition. For me personally, I prefer silence. Thank you. So here we go. Today is day 22 of the 25 days force majeure Christmas. And the topic is subjective reality is integrity. Just wanted to say this question again, or it's a statement. Is it intelligent to go into college debt slavery, to pledge allegiance to the bar, British accredited regency, to practice American law in Hawaii Kingdom that is an official war zone, American occupation, right? And to do the right thing and stand with Kanaka Maoli, or for me it's the earth peoples, indigenous peoples, to do investigative mediation, because that's what needs to happen even globally. So from that perspective, diplomatically, as well as for me and the things that I'm coming through my being, my subjective truth, my subjective reality. So this is not just for Hawaii. This is globally, especially with all of these decision makers threatening with global war, right? World war. And the force majeure. And this war, there's all these contracts. Everything's contracts. That's why you have, I mean, even nations are trusts and do contracts. Treaties are contracts. It's all that it really boils down to, that we can opt out of, right? It's all contracts. So in force majeure, it's a legitimate applicable remedy for for legalities in times of war. So, and the thing is the question becomes, at what point are we not at war, right? So, for me, who am I? These are the things I stand on, or stand for, or is my being, my subjective truth. And it begins and ends with empower with independence. Independent of self is true mother worship. Female form is the walking temple of life, more sacred and holy than all temples, churches, holy places, and human achievement combined. The last guardians of the future, keeping everything current, including DNA, entrusted by the cosmos, Paramashiva, God. Okay. And mothers to initiate third eye and Kundalini through umbilical cord initiation. The reason why is the 460 powers of Mahadeva are real. Hinduism is real. For me, I choose to live the full dynamic of my rights to start my own lineage, sampradaya, vibe tribe, family, right? I should put that in there. Of self-governed families, expressing their own liberated consciousness, ensuring up-to-date DNA expressions spiritually, economically, and politically. No one will ever grant me my birthright. Women are the source of posterity, thus the right to have one's own country and currency, not the UN, not any one or group, because time is life, and I advocate having 1 hour by 1 hour exchanges only, right? None of this hierarchical per hour constructs that is a colonizer's constructs to maintain hierarchy. All mothers are global leaders. Only Cosmos, Paramashiva God granted, blessed me life. And Moksha Peace Treaty, which is self-governed sovereignty. Individual self-governed sovereignty, families governing themselves, making that a global reality. How do we make that a global norm again? Because that's what it used to be. How it got into this mess is making deals and then creating hierarchies, colonizers, trying to make slaves to perpetuate one's ideas by using slavery instead of consent, full disclosure and consent. The melting pot of subjective truths, Hawaiian luau, intercultural, interfaith buffet style. That's from where I'm operating and looking at everything. And so what I do is investigative diplomatic mediator in the global neighborhood. I don't take sides. I'm for global peace, family-centric, consciousness-based societies. So you are here paying rent to who is a legit question. So for me, I'm advocating to redefine slavery. When landlords exist, slavery exists. No masters, no slaves. Either everyone owns an acre of land or no one owns land. And I'm for food forests. With the deforestation, we should reforest them with food so everybody can have yummy, yummy, luscious goodies to eat, like mangoes, right? Avocados. Yeah, those yummy things. Bananas. And then Kailasa can be Kailasa or heaven on Buloka earth can happen. So in this global neighborhood, starting at 1-1 Dharma or 1-1 family or 1-1 culture or 1-1 religion, that's the only way that war will continuously perpetuate. And not all traditions or religions teach Advaita or oneness or all-inclusiveness, and to operate from there first. So all religions are unique. They are not the same. Before we move forward, I would like to share. We'll be sharing this continuously because a Congolese man set himself on fire protesting genocide of his peoples. If you use any tech, it is blood tech, because the slavery as young as 4 years old are forced to mine raw materials for tech. And this is a decades-long enslavement. That poor, it literally, yeah, it really must be that bad for someone to make that decision just to bring, and it's still not gaining global media attention. Because why? Everyone is complicit. Everyone is complicit. You are complicit. I am complicit. And until we somehow all become aware of this injustice, and not just aware, have things start making things proper and right and pono, can't rest, right? So I want to share this video.
A Congolese man set himself on fire to bring attention to the ongoing genocide and exploitation that is happening to his people in the DRC. The video is circulating all over Twitter, and now it has made its way to TikTok right now, and people are outraged. And I actually searched up the whole situation to see if there's articles on it, and no BBC or CNN or Washington Post, none of these big publications covered it, because they want to hide what they are doing in the DRC. So the man literally set himself on fire. Like, I don't even know how he can have that kind of courage, but just to like bring attention to what's happening to the people of Congo. Like, they've been exploited. Millions of people, children at the age of 4, are mining cobalt and coltan and all kinds of stuff for the tech companies and all kinds of stuff. Okay, and I don't know if you have seen the video, but it's pretty heavy. And because we need to bring attention to this issue, guys. Nobody's talking about what's happening in Africa and how these people are suffering from the same colonial power. Israel, America, Britain, France, all these people are taking advantage of these innocent people and their lives. The conflict in the DRC is fueled by the competition for the rich natural resources of the region, such as gold, coltan, and cobalt, which are used in various industries and technologies. Literally, every big company, every tech company, the government, everyone is taking advantage of the Congolese people and their natural resource, which belongs to them, and they're not even profiting from it. They're being forced to mine it. First of all, do all the hard work, risk their lives, and then these people steal it from them and come and make billions of dollars worth of profit off of these people's lives.
I don't live in Africa. My heart goes out to these people, and all I can do is continuously share that we are all complicit. Just think, if there is a child as young as 4 years old, and that's normalized, and when you look at the meat industry, wouldn't you think that women are being raped and forced to have these kids, and then having those babies taken away to, I mean, it just gets very, very questions, huge questions come up for me. So, yeah, want to share this next video because I thought that this was a very cute whistleblowing buddy of mine. It says my dog found a whistle in the backyard and now won't stop whistling. Oh, what a cute little dog. And I continuously encourage everyone to do not just their genetical DNA, but your spiritual genealogy too. It will be the most beautiful journey of life, celebration of life there is, of food, dance, music, medicine, and spirituality. And in this global neighborhood, there is too many grandpas waving around their crayon scribbles in their arguments of supremacy, when from the mother's perspective, no, we don't have a choice what comes out, and all of the children that come through us that we're responsible to navigate, only ones responsible to navigate the formless to form, comes out in their own permutation combinations. So it's a very silly conversation from a female perspective that men continuously do and have. It's just as silly as the whole intellectual property and this and that. Because if for Hindus and Hinduism, temples are universities and knowledge is free. There was no hoarding knowledge because of what you see now with all of that me, mine, mine. So it becomes like literally a silly conversation from a feminine matriarchal perspective. And there's not enough family men. Where are the family men? The real family men. So, as we are in full swing of the holiday season, what are we consciously perpetuating? Let's normalize handmade gifts, digital gifts, regifting, secondhand gifts, consumable gifts, experience gifts, and small business gifts. So tomorrow, what's coming up this weekend in Hilo, Hawaii, here where I live, the Liliuokalani Gardens Garden Enchantment Light Festival, or celebration of lights, is going on with the Christmas lights, and that's this weekend from 6 to 9 p.m. There's volunteers urgently needed for the shelter dogs. They need help for walks and playing, and they have the volunteer trainings on Sundays at 2 p.m. in the volcano area. If you want to connect and volunteer your time, you can connect them at their email a4ahawaii@gmail.com, or their website Action for Animals with an S, hawaii.com. There's also the little free library debut at the Paneawa Zoo Playground Pavilion. Bring gently used books to exchange. They also are requesting donations of $22 to buy a carton of new books to give Keiki for their monthly story time that they have. So their website, everydayheroproject.org/little free libraries. And then that is going to be, that was today. My apologies. That was today. But you can still connect with them because they have their monthly book story time. Started with the 25 days force majeure Christmas. Subject reality is integrity. If you travel beyond this point, you will be responsible for cost of search and rescue. Personal responsibility code. For me personally, I call upon Mahadeva for protection and blessings. Here we go. So force majeure. Force majeure is a legitimate legal plea for all contracts, making all contracts null and void. Particularly here in Hawaii, all contracts meaning all contracts, birth certificates, court cases, etc., 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 because this is a legitimate war zone. Now, that comes with responsibility. Responsibility requires to bring in an immigration for your country, so anybody can, but those are the things that need to happen to line up that are being purposefully overlooked, or to maintain the narrative that's being perpetuated. So, Hawaii Kingdom, with their article, not the past as you think it is. So, in the laws of war, acquisition of a country through the occupiers or attackers' Congress is not a legal option. There is no treaty of annexation, meaning we give up, here's the kingdom. That never happened. What actually happened was Grover Cleveland in December of 1893 gave back Hawaii Kingdom to Hawaii, to the Queen, but that was overlooked in the corporate shuffle, and it's not like now where it's just a text or an email to check, right, for things to move properly. I gather that I'm redundant in repeating myself. What was that? What is going on? All right. So, what I want to share next is, this is crucial to understand before I move forward, what is going on. So this is a graphic that I made many years ago, and all right, so hopefully I gotta double check, because it divides where the actual diplomatic lines are, and for me, I don't take sides. I gotta do a tech check just to see if it can be seen. This is where it gets challenging with a lot of my graphics. I am aware that I do put them I put a lot of information in. Oh yeah, that's too much. So how do I do this? Okay, here. Alright, right. Here we go. So with martial law that started in, and it really doesn't matter which constitution you want to look at, there is these sides. There's the American law that should be in martial law. The American side should be in martial law, but it's not. In order to make this pono, and to start aligning individuals, aligning themselves to the side that they should be on. And there's a lot of words that are being thrown around to confuse the situation. So, American infrastructure, if you have a social security number, a passports, birth certificates, driver's license, W-2, businesses, 501c3, LLC, Corp, C Corp, S Corp, etc., even having camping, fishing, hunting, driving, boating licenses, all of those things are American constructs. And so, in order for those kinds of infrastructure vehicles, which are invasion, must travel through the right um, channels, which need to be set up, which is called commercia belli during occupation. That's where the military uh, oversees all of those civilian um, interactions between opposing parties. So if one is American, in this case it's American and Hawaii Kingdom or Kanaka Maoli, there should be those oversights. Now this is where Keanu Sai is proposing that the Hawaii state of Hawaii be that intermediary um, military government, and I understand because of the way the laws of war is written, but those hypocrisies are like dead end loops that are littered all over colonizers' agendas and the way that they have everything set up. So technically that is what has to happen as per laws of war. So anyone with a 501c3 or any kind of those structures, they are American. Even if you are a Kanaka Maoli, if you are operating in those structures, technically that is treasonous activity. The definitions of treason as per American constructs and per Hawaii Kingdom constructs are different because their constitutions and penal codes are different. So when using the force majeure, you can use force majeure whether you're naughty or nice, but please understand each side, it's not a get out of jail free card. Each side has their laws that they follow, and so thus you will be falling into that. Now what it is with the force majeure, the first force majeure case winning, and anybody can use this, but again it comes with full responsibility, which means you got to bring in your country's immigration and such to make that um, flow. And specifically it needs to have American immigration come through because it is the Americans who are occupying the Hawaii Kingdom, which is war. Occupation is war. So this is where there's a lot of confusion that's happening, because for the American side, they categorize Native Americans and Native Hawaiians and call them Native Hawaiian in their ordinance, because all of it is to me human trafficking. They are funneling humans and deciding based on their blood quantum and everything like that of their qualifications. That's an American construct, a hierarchy of superiority construct, and that's how they handle it. And all they do is use treaties, and treaties are to gain friendship, only to do a bait and switch and do a full massacre and genocide of peoples, betraying their trust and humanity of giving, essentially. So within Hawaiian Kingdom, those who are called Native Hawaiian are technically those of any non-Kanaka Maoli. Kanaka Maoli are the title for those who are of that kingdom, and Native Hawaiians are Keikioka Aina, or offspring of settlers, or the settlers are Hawaiian, and the keiki of that is Native Hawaiian because they were born of this land, born on this land. So there is that huge difference. And so there's a lot of confusion going on because these lines are not clearly stated, and I grasp that the graphics I make are very precise, as precise as I can get it. I see some updated information because I made this years ago. There's updated information that I need to um, do this, put this on. So right now, when it comes to land reclamation that is going on right now, which requires genealogy, and there's a lot of headway being made in that. But putting this aside, I'm sharing this because hopefully there are more people listening, because as I go further into today's day 22 of the 25 days force majeure Christmas episode, is it called an episode? um, there's a lot of things that are being used in their strategies to confuse, to because it's subjugation strategies, and that's a graphic I forgot to put in here. What is subjugation strategies that are perpetuating using confusion. So what is it? So recently the Kalima lawsuit that was filed, and there is monies that are entitled to receive the settlement for this, and there are individuals who are receiving these funds. Those are going back to like the apology bill. They said an apology. This is where I question the logic. I get why, but the thing is if even if the state of Hawaii is appointed as the inter-military government, they would have already done it. They did that in 1993. So, but what is happening now, which recently came out, which was on December 8th, the claim for being paid, they are confusing. And once you take that monies, and there are people taking the money, they're accepting that the land is not theirs. They're accepting that narrative. And I get it. There's been 130 years of subjugation and such. The next thing that came up, which is just in the last couple days, is the portions of Mauna Kea, including the summit, are now part of the American or State of Hawaii Register of Historic Places. So those are negotiating pieces for that they're doing and using with confusing the lines, blurring the lines in subjugation strategies. So, and the most current thing that has come up, which was introduced recently on the 6th, is it's HR 6645 to terminate membership of the United States in the United Nations and for other purposes. Now, the other purposes, I question on, well, what is that? But this becomes a very interesting situation. I'm not for the UN at all. So that's a happy thing, but this does put Hawaii Kingdom in a very different legal position, because the only thing that is binding a lot of the different legal arguments is because the U.S. is a permanent seat holder in the United Nations, holding them to those contracts, because it's all just contracts. They contracted to be part of the UN and a signing member, and that's the only thing. So when that goes away, it puts Hawaii in a very different situation, legally speaking, even with the force majeure and this and that, because if they're not part of the UN, all of that force majeure stuff is that UN stuff, right? their Black's Law Dictionary, all of that, right? All of that, that changes. So when you do the actual history and looking at it, you have people who are running away from their narcissistic abusers. But the thing is US is still under British rule. There's two types of America, even legally, and I'm still in that process of sorting through that. How is that? And if anybody knows, I am open to real conversations to sort this out. And this is where I've found Dr. Shiva, and with Dr. Shiva, he is a truth seeker, and he's literally brave and bold enough to go and slam up against the establishment and win in legalities and the things that he has found, including how they are complicit with Twitter. But today I was sitting and listening to one of his videos that he posted a while back. This is like a month ago, and I found it interesting the way that he talks about Israel. It's a very long video, but I'm just going to share the short snippet of what I feel is relevant to like the whole situationship of all this that's going on. He shares a very interesting perspective and something worth looking into. But if everybody's looking into all kind of things or whatever, it is what it is. All these rabbit holes to go and research, it becomes
a wife cheating on her husband right in front of him, and because she really doesn't care, because she knows he's not going to do anything.
One of the things, Chris, is on October 7th, when this occurred, it's important to also review every other presidential candidate, what they posted. Booby fucking Kennedy posted, yes, let's go butcher all the Palestinians because we must give Israel the right to defend itself. Same thing. Nikki Haley said, let's wipe them all out. Vivek the Snake, same thing. All of these people, Donald Trump, this is savage. We should go, Israel, we should defend the rights of Israel. But what's interesting is, I was the only one who said on October 7th, this is being done because Netanyahu, there was a civil war taking place in Israel against Netanyahu. It's been going on for years. And this was a very clever way for him to distract attention. Now, one of the things I want to show with you right here is, I found this thing and I posted, and a bunch of people shared it since then. But here is The Economist. I don't know if you've seen this. From December 22nd, 2012. It's called The Holiday Double Issue. Everyone see that? Can you see, Chris?
Yeah.
It says a holiday issue. Very nice, anodyne term, right? December 12th, January 14th. And it goes, and much more, including a rough guide to hell. And this is a picture. It's the cover photo of the Economist. And look what you see. This is 11 years. years ago. You see Hamas on gliders flying over Israel.
Oh my God.
Okay, and here is Netanyahu flying over Israel, starting a war. But right here it says Hamas. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, now
Yeah, I can. It's really scary, actually.
Yeah, and it's a holiday issue. All right, so these kinds of things you really have to wonder: is this predictive or is it engineered? You see what I'm saying? Are they telling
Well,
us?
they like to engineer so-called prophecy.
Right. But you're seeing it in black and white or in color right here, right? It's in full-blown color. And you can see all the different characters involved, but it's essentially a massive war starting by Satan, by the devils, all calculating the value of this for them going on for many, many years. But it is profoundly important for people to understand that there can be no free Palestine without a free America. So this is the real issue that the neoliberals do not want to talk about. In every movement, Chris, that I've noticed, and if you take Truth, Freedom, Health, if you really understand the system's dynamic, and this is why a lot of people, well-meaning people, there's a guy called Patrick Hennington or something, and he was, if you go look at his tweets, he was, favorable towards Kennedy, thinking Kennedy's anti-establishment. And then I'm like, why are you supporting fucking Kennedy? You may not be saying anything, the fact that you're not exposing him is support and promoting his tweets as though he's anti-establishment. And this is central because there's lots of social media influencers who don't understand political dynamics. So they naively will promote Trump, or maybe they're paid to promote Trump, okay? Naively will promote Kennedy, or maybe they're paid to, or they want to be in his circles, right? This guy, Jackson Hinkle, a kid that comes out of nowhere. Well, he says he's a MAGA communist, he's free Palestine. Well, he's promoting Trump. Trump is a fucking Zionist Maximus. He says Trump's going to be our savior. And what emerges out of all of this understanding is you start recognizing that all of these people are slaves to Zionism at a very fundamental level. And so in Israel, Netanyahu has been under massive indictments for 2 years. He was indicted. And there's been massive protests by Israeli Jews of the many, many different parliamentary parties against Netanyahu. So you can go look at my tweet, what I put on October 7th, that says this piece of shit is doing this because he wants to distract attention from his own downfall. And so this was perfect for him, for Netanyahu. Hamas was created by Israel in the 80s. It was funded by Israel as early as 2019-20. Yossi Cohen, Y-O-S-S-I Cohen, who is the head of Mossad, went to Qatar and said, please keep funding Hamas. And the reason they want this done, Chris, is because
it's their boogeyman. It's their reason. It's their friggin' pretense for invasion every single time.
It's
part of Israel's Darvo tactic. Darvo is what people in abusive relationships use. It means defend, attack, and reverse the status of the victim. So first they'll lie or they'll diminish. They'll say, "Oh no, we didn't attack hospitals," or if they get caught, they're like, "Oh, we did, but it was only because Hamas is there." You never hear the media say they bombed Palestine or they bombed Lebanon. No, they bombed Hamas or they bombed Hezbollah or they bombed in Syria. They bombed Aleppo, but no, they bombed Iranian-backed targets. They just use little trigger words for Americans on media. And it's funny that all these people.
Let's just before this is one important thing to mention here, is that within the occupied territory, so within Gaza, there's been there's all different groups which have arisen, secular groups. Secular, to those people who don't know what that means, secular means non-religious. Okay, they're not affiliated with a religion. They're political liberation groups that want to liberate their people. They're not allied with fundamental Islam or fundamental Christianity, fundamental Judaism. They are building a revolutionary movement to liberate their people. Very legitimate movements, which were supported broadly by lots and lots of people. So Israel needed to create Hamas was created because then they could say, see, these guys are crazy. They needed to create, as you said, the boogeyman, but it's really to create a religious-based movement versus a secular movement. And this is what, you know, the U.S. did in Afghanistan with the Mujahideen and the Taliban. So the modus operandi is there are natural movements coming up for democracy among the indigenous people. So you go create some crazy version of that movement so you can actually justify to oppress the indigenous movements. And this is,
and don't forget, they got to give it a whole bunch of money and support. And Netanyahu's on video 2019 talking to his own government, stating how they fund and support Hamas as part of their strategy to prevent the formation of a Palestinian state.
yeah, so I think the homework that people want to take some notes here, because the good news, Chris, is for the first time in probably, 90 years, 90 years, 85 years since 1948, are we actually having a discourse about Zionism versus Judaism, Israel, etc. So this is a good thing. But for those people learning this, understand, if you want to take notes, Zionism is not equal to Judaism, number one. Number two, Zionism equals racism. 3, Zionism is anti-Semitism. 4, Zionists collaborated with the Nazis to butcher Jews. Extensive amount of literature on this. You know, was that 4 or 5? 6, if I missed one. The Zionists, you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. In fact, there are 300 million evangelical Christians. At least 60% are Zionists. That means there's 180 million, quote unquote, Christian Zionists. I put the quotes because being Christian and a Zionist is antithetical.
It's anti-ethical. It makes absolutely no sense.
But there's 180 million Christian Zionists. The total number of Jews on the planet are 16 million only, right? So there's only 16 million Jews. 20% of those are opposed, at minimum, in the Pew research that came out 2 years ago in 2022, are opposed to the concept of a theocratic state. They're not Zionists, at least 20%. So that basically leaves around, maybe on a good day, 12 million Jewish Zionists, 12 million Ashkenazi Jewish Zionists who actually discriminate against every other Jew, even in Israel, and they treat many of them like the Palestinian second-class citizens. So these are very important notes that people should make, because you're going to get into arguments as this discussion occurs. And the first thing I think people should end with is Zionism is racism and anti-Semitism that serves imperialism and colonialism. And the reason I wanted to share that region, Chris, and let's go back to that, is people need to understand that the imperialists wanted this region. They wanted a lot of, Britain went all over Africa and created random nation states, and they have everyone fighting each other, right? And then they steal all their oil and their diamonds, etc. Similarly, if you look at the world, this region right here is central to the flow of oils and goods here, right? Central in terms of strategic reason for military between East and West. And sitting right there is a little piece of real estate known as Palestine. And you should really change it to Palestine. This is Google Zionism right here, okay? But this piece of land, it's a very small piece of land, Chris, this land right here, right? Is the reason that many millions of people particularly poor whites, poor blacks, poor Hispanics, have died and getting butchered fighting for this nonsense, right? Right here. But this is a very strategic piece of land. And China is now eyeing this piece of land. And Israel and Netanyahu are basically, and the Zionists are playing off who's going to give them more money. Will the American taxpayers fund Israel another round? Or are they going to get another John, right? Which is going to be China. Because China really also wants this strategic area. So before it was British imperialism controlling it, US imperialism, and will Chinese imperialism now start controlling Israel? So it's very important for people to understand the dynamics here, that there's a lot of billions and billions and trillions of dollars involved here, and China is on China's side. China doesn't give a fuck about the Palestinians. You know, a lot of people think, ooh, China and Russia. A lot of Zionist oligarchs are in Russia. All right. I don't see Russia right now sending military aid to the Palestinian people. I don't see China sending military aid to the Palestinian people. Those people are just being butchered. So they're essentially alone. And I think what's going on is who is going to strike the better deal with Netanyahu? Netanyahu's probably, yeah, Netanyahu's using his Zionist hoodlums like Anthony Blinken and saying, look, negotiate this deal for me. If you want me not to give that port to China, if you don't want me to build that highway, maybe you guys want to fund it. Who wants to fund this, right? I got, someone else, it's like basically negotiations. That's what this
basically
is about.
Israel doing what they always do and playing all sides. Well-timed, pretending to be the victim. But especially with the Palestinian conflict, it's pretty hard to play the victim when you have the actual victims surrounded, blockaded. You could turn off their food, water, and electricity. And you have a military with artillery, with helicopters, with an air force, with a navy, with nuclear weapons, and they have small arms and paragliders. So
Chris, you can see this interesting question here. 100% agree. Israel and China, I'm sorry, not this one. Someone said this question. Why isn't Saudis helping Palestine? If you looked at the notes that we just went over, you don't...
The Zionists, the Saudis have been friends for a while.
Zionists. The Saudis are Zionists, okay? The Brahmins in India are Zionists, okay? We have 70 million Zionists in the United States and the Bible Belt. They all report up through the Zionist infrastructure. So you need to understand, in the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia gave $2 billion to the Zionist hoodlum Jared Kushner, okay? Who was brought in by a Zionist hoodlum president, Donald Trump, who, in my view, sold his daughter as a trading bargain to one Zionist to another. It was a Zionist transaction. That's what took place.
It was definitely a business transaction, one way or the other. It was like an arranged marriage, any way you look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone says, can you speak? Look, Saudi Arabia, essentially, someone says, can you speak more about Saudi Arabia? It's a good discussion. Here's the deal. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, right? Turkey, all of these quote unquote Islamic countries, people that you have to separate the people from the leaders. The people are massively subjugated. Saudi Arabia, the only reason there isn't a revolution in Saudi Arabia because of the amount of oil that they have, and they literally give people money so they don't overthrow them. If you look at Egypt, about 15, 20 years ago, there was the Arab Spring uprising against Mubarak, who was a dictator in Egypt. And students rose up. And people should just, Google Arab Spring, Tahrir Square. Millions of students showed up because the people of Egypt, I've been to Egypt, I was there for 7 weeks. They don't like Mubarak. It's a police state. Go to Egypt. It is like a military compound there. You go to Turkey, Erdogan is a scumbag. Anyone thinking that Erdogan cares about the Palestinian people, what he did was he said, wow, this is a political opportunity. So all these protests, he said, let's have a national day for the Palestinians. Well, he ran elections in Turkey where he lost. He was ousted from power. He basically discounted those elections, still seized power. He's a fascist. He plays multiple sides. One day he'll be supporting NATO. The other day he'll be supporting Russia. And then he'll support NATO. Then he'll support Russia. So he allowed these protests because he wants his people not to overthrow him. Oh, yes, I'm a Muslim. I'm supporting Palestine. Same, you can look at all these quote unquote Muslim countries. All of them suppress their people. And the Fed is using power of oil. That's it. Their people actually hate whether it's a crown prince of Saudi Arabia, et cetera. And this is something central we need to understand. That's why in all of these countries, Chris, these people wanted their leadership to do something, and they haven't. They've done nothing. No. So they just go out there, Erdogan supporting the protests because he doesn't want to get overthrown. It's just all just
doing what they're doing what's politically popular. It's
right.
That simple. When the majority of your population is chanting for free Palestine, he's going to go and jump on the bandwagon. But did they actually do anything to help? Not too many people have done anything to help the Palestinians yet, and they really should. But it's like you said, the Zionists have basically infiltrated many governments around the world, and they do it through the banking system. For instance, 99% of the world's countries are in debt. Who are they in debt to? The private banks. Who own the private banks? The Zionists. This is the kind of power they have. This is why they can control governments like puppets. This is why they can start wars. This is why they can decide who wins wars. And this is why they're very, very dangerous. And people have to understand they don't care about you and they don't care about anything. And what really blows my mind is for the last 3-4 years, because of this whole COVID pandemic, by the time that we had 3-4 years of the media, the government, the medical establishment, the law enforcement establishment lying to our faces on the TV every day, what did we hear in the last 6 months? Oh, I'm never listening to the TV again. The TV lies about everything. The government lies about everything. The moment the TV started talking about Israel, everybody started listening to exactly what the TV said once again. People have very short memories, and people have to stop watching too much TV and so many Hollywood movies because they're made by the same people that are trying to kill off these Palestinians. And I was in the States. Actually, I was in the States, and I got kicked out of the Reawakening America tour. I got escorted off by security when I was scheduled to speak there. And I had no idea why. And they showed me a Twitter post that I had made. And all it said is, the Israeli invasion of Palestine, brought to you by the same people as COVID, climate change, rigged elections, and censored social media. That was enough to have police called on me. And on the police report, it said I made an anti-Israeli social media post. And when I tried to regain access to the United States a few weeks later, I was actually denied entry. So that's the kind of power they have. And that's how heavy the infiltration is. So people need to wake up and start thinking for themselves, especially so-called Christian Zionists. I dare you, any of you Christian Zionists that love Israel so much and want to support Israel, I will pay for your ticket. I'll put you up in a nice hotel while you're there. But you know what you got to do for me? You got to walk down the street with a big cross in your hand and say you want to praise Jesus Christ. And we'll see what kind of reception you get from the people that you're praying for every day while they're committing a genocide. The vast majority of people in Israel do not like Jesus Christ. They do not believe of him as a savior or a Messiah. They believe of him as a false prophet.
It's actually worse than that. It's worse than that. Look, I have people that, and I didn't know how vituperative and the vitriol, they said, oh, Jesus was a criminal. In fact, they said, Jesus, this is a Jewish Zionist. He's a fucking criminal. That's how this individual said. And it was glad, and we're so happy what happened to him. He doesn't represent us. You know, so this is a level of, let me play for people very quickly. People may have seen this. If you haven't seen it, in spite of all the shadow banning, let me play this. Chris, you may have seen this one, right? So this is a post I did which said, every presidential candidate except me sucks Zionist cock.
Oh my God, yeah, I freaking was dying when I watched that.
Yeah, so that may not sound very presidential, but it's very presidential because I represent the American worker who does not want to be cock, new term, Zuckers of Zionism. I want to just play this because people haven't seen it. Every president except me sucks Zionist cock. That may not sound presidential, but in fact, it's very presidential because I represent the American worker who does not want us to be cocksuckers of Zionism. Donald Trump sucks Zionist cock. Nikki Haley sucks Zionist cock. Every presidential candidate except me sucks Zionist cock. Every presidential candidate except me sucks Zionist cock. That may not sound presidential, but in fact, it's very presidential because I represent the American worker who does not want us to be cocksuckers of Zionism. Donald Trump sucks Zionist cock. Nikki Haley sucks Zionist cock. Vivek the Snake sucks Zionist cock. Chris Christie, Booby fucking Kennedy, Joe Biden, all of these people. The only people that don't suck Zionist cock are the American workers who are being screwed. I'm an American worker. I'm one of us. But Donald Trump is no different than any one of them. They all serve Israel. Bernie Sanders, for example, is an Israeli citizen. Anthony Blinken is an Israeli citizen. The head of the CDC is an Israeli citizen. All of these people are Israeli citizens. All of these people work together against the American working people. There's a lot of liberal 40 years. Doesn't get us anywhere. All that ceasefire does is let Israel pull back, then go bomb the shit out of the Palestinians again. The only way to end this is we must end the occupation. Ending the occupation means beginning with ending the occupation of America by Zionism. Zionists have taken over every seat of power of the United States. If we're going to free Palestine, we must end the occupation of America by Zionism. If there's anyone who should get military aid, it should be the Palestinian people. I'm not talking about Hamas, by the way, all those morons who think Hamas represents the Palestinian people. Hamas was created by Israel. When you see Hamas, replace it with Israel. We need to build the bottoms up. So anyway, I think it's important to play that because I didn't even post that, Chris. Someone else had seen a live interview and they extracted that. It started going viral everywhere, but it's the essence of what's taking place.
It's not even the essence. It's literally, in some cases, literal, if not metaphorical. That's how disgusting it really is. Straight up.
No, I think you're right, man. So if you look at the cocksuckers, it's fascinating to me because they created this guy, Vivek the Snake, a douchebag. I mean, a 35, 38-year-old kid who's such a snake. How is he going to be when he's 80? He's going to probably become Lord Sith, you know? Because you have to understand that the establishment literally creates as a farm league of people that they're using to sucker people like Flytrap. Oh, did you hear Tulsi Gabbard says some really good stuff? She's against the military-industrial complex. Ooh, wow. But she's a fucking warmonger. The woman supported the bombing of Iraq right after 9/11, saying, oh yeah, we got to go get all these Islamic fundamentalists. Then she did the same thing on October 7th. Same thing with Booby fucking Kennedy. Oh, well, Booby's against vaccines. He's for medical freedom. No, the motherfucker's actually for quote unquote safe vaccines that somehow he's going to get this completely corrupt establishment to create, which is protected. The pharma companies are protected by his uncle's bill, Ted Kennedy, which was the vaccine injury program, which was passed in 1986 to cover up the tracks of his other uncle, JFK, who's a fucking reckless individual who created the 1962 vaccination program. So end to end from Johnny Kennedy to fucking Booby Kennedy the first to Booby fucking Kennedy the second, all of these people have been involved in Big Pharma.
And I want to point out one other person that you didn't mention that's going to upset people. Donald Trump. He did Warp Speed.
Right.
Who funded Donald Trump's campaign? Why don't people Google the name Sheldon Adelson? He's dead now. But we all know he's a multi-billionaire Zionist and one of the largest political donors in the history of the United States. And that's where Trump got his bread buttered. And that's why he put Kushner in as basically his watchdog, etc.
It's worse than that, Chris. It's Donald Trump was bailed out.
Yes, he was bankrupt until Adelson came. So he literally owes him his soul.
Soros and the Rothschilds. These people, the guy is not a businessman. Donald Trump basically, as the level of businessman he is, he knows how to hold a phone like this with a suit and act like he's doing business. His balance sheet, very people that I know have looked at his actual balance sheet. It's a negative billionaire, more liabilities than assets. Okay. So all of these people are like a farm league, Chris, that they have in waiting. So the American working class doesn't get off their butt and build a bottoms up movement. Rather, they say, okay, let's try Tulsi Gabbard. Oh yeah, some people stick to her like flypaper. Oh, let's try Bernie Sanders, another Zionist hoodlum. Oh yeah, he's talking about the workers. The guy's never held a job in his life. Oh, now let's try Booby fucking Kennedy, who bangs 20, 30 women. You know, his wife hangs herself, is pro actually vaccines, wants quote unquote safe vaccines, right? Supported lockdowns. Oh, let's see if people forget all of those contradictions because he's a Kennedy. So a bunch of doofuses support that moron, right? Because they're all enamored because they want to suck Kennedy cock, right?
Well, they use gimmicks. They try to create, like you said, they create a farm league of viable candidates using gimmicks to attract a certain segment of society, because by dividing the people, they can constantly control who wins, and they won't have to rig the elections as much that way.
Right. It's dividing people, but making people believe that their savior is going to come from above, but not from one of us from below. That it's going to come. Trump who has a golden plated toilet seat somehow understands your plight. So they have him in a hard hat. Oh yeah, I understand construction workers hugging police, eating McDonald's. Go to his fucking restaurants, at Trump Tower. They have grass-fed organic meat. Go to Mar-a-Lago. He's eating good food all the time, okay? He may do the burger thing for you, right? But he's making sure his family and his wife and his extended family are getting organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised beef, all right? So they're trying to make these people populist. This dude, Vivek the Snake, puts his hand over someone as though he knows what it means to be a working class person. These people really need a serious lesson taught to them. And it's not going to come from above. They would not exist without the promotion of Fucker Carlson, who's also created by them, without the promotion of Joe Rogan, who's created by them, which all of these people are beholden to them. And I think the awakening that's occurring, that needs to occur, Chris, is people to recognize there's the obvious establishment and the not so obvious establishment.
The gatekeepers.
Well, it's the gatekeepers and almost like the fly traps. So I just want to grab a cup of tea, but I just want to play a video for people that gives people the solution, Chris, if you don't mind, right? Many of you know we've created a movement. We have allowed our country to be taken.
My apologies. I went past the portion. I was like, wait, where did it go? It's actually towards the beginning of the strategy that is being executed. That's the main reason why I wanted to share this video. My apologies. I thought I had it.
Use some elements of race and religion, package it into that because they need to something to get people really. Event took place. I think it's fascinating for everyone to really look. As people know, Chris, I'm running for president as an independent candidate. But I think the important thing to understand is that I'm the only viable candidate who's anti-Zionist. And anti-Zionism, we've talked about, Zionism is really a racist political ideology. It's also more important, people need to understand, it's anti-Semitic. So when you're anti-Zionist, doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic. It actually means you stand for equality of all peoples, and you don't believe in chosen people subjugating other people, or master race, or a master caste. And what's fascinating, if you look at Brahmanism, and if you look at Zionism, and if you look at Nazism,
It's all the same.
all very similar based on a political ideology. Brahmanism borrowed stuff from Hinduism. Zionism takes stuff from, quote unquote, elements of Judaism, but it isn't. It's a political ideology. And, Nazism takes elements from Christianity, some aspects, and all of these things are political ideologies which use the fervor of religion or race to manipulate people. But behind all of this is always they're using these ideologies to actually move capital, right? It's about increasing power, profit, control. So as long as people understand that they create a political ideology, use some elements of race and religion, package it into that because they need to something to get people really angry about in one way or the other. But ultimately, it's intended to support expansion of power, profit, control. I wanted to bring up this. A lot of people may not know there's this Belt and Road that is critical to China. That's right now. People haven't studied. They should just, go Google Belt and Road. And what you'll find is what Belt and Road is about. It's really about China, which originally wanted to expand its reach in Southeast Asia by putting road infrastructure, digital infrastructure to expand its presence in Southeast Asia, right? Malaysia, let's say Singapore, Vietnam, in those areas. Well, it's expanded now to way beyond China. It's Belt and Road, which includes systems of infrastructure, high-speed rail, right? Roads, digital infrastructure, surveillance infrastructure, going from Beijing all the way to Europe. And that's the idea, through the Indian Ocean, right? But one of the critical things that people may not know about is that For many, many years, there's been this concept of a quote unquote peace highway that would intersect, Israel all the way to Saudi Arabia. It gets even more interesting because $11 billion is what Egypt today makes from the use of the Suez Canal. And I think it's good to bring up, you've probably seen this, Chris, but let me bring it up. But the Suez Canal is in a very critical region. So if we step back here, we see the Mediterranean Sea. This is the Red Sea. And I've been to all of these areas. I've been to Egypt. This is, there's a place right here. It's called Sharm el Sheikh. A lot of people, it's apparently known for some of the best scuba diving, by the way, right here. But when you step back here, we see the Indian Ocean's here. China's all the way over here. And China's goal is to build these infrastructures, roads, highways that we're going to extend here, but all the way from China, all the way out to Europe. One of the critical aspects of this is, when we look back at history, the way people used to go from Europe, you may remember, Chris, if you were in Italy or Spain, how did you get over to India, right? You'd have to go all the way around like this, right? Through this traffic. When the Suez Canal was built a couple hundred years ago, I think in the 1800s, it enabled people to go through this aspect right here. So the Suez Canal is right up here. Right there is the Suez Canal. So it's around, I believe, around 340 kilometers from here to up to here. So boats and everything could move up from here, the Red Sea coming from the Indian Ocean, up through the Suez Canal, and it goes up through here, and then here's actually the quote-unquote Suez Canal, up through here, and then you got to the Mediterranean up here. So quite strategic, because oil, goods, everything now you could be literally in Europe, right? Europe could go right to India this way, Indians could come up this way. And Egypt right here controls the Suez Canal, and it makes about $11 billion in revenue. Now, per the Belt and Road, one of the goals is that there's a very interesting city here, right at the tip. And you notice this is still right here. This very important, it feeds into the Red Sea. And it's Gulf right here of, let me zoom in there. Okay, so everyone can see it. This Gulf right here of, can you see that, Chris?
Yeah.
Aqaba, okay? And the Gulf of Aqaba feeds right into this region, which is the, Persian Gulf, essentially, the Red Sea right here, and out to the Gulf, and this is what you go out here. But this is a very important point right here. There's a couple of islands that, these two islands that was being managed on behalf of Egypt, but the idea is that these may be managed on behalf of Saudi Arabia. And the idea is Saudi Arabia has immense wealth, and what Netanyahu wants to do is he wants to build this rail right here from Eilat. So this is Israel right here. Can you see that?
Yep.
Chris, so you notice there's this little piece of land owned by Israel that sticks out right here, and it's Eilat, so Eilat, okay? And the idea is that from here, the idea is to build a rail system through the desert, all the way up. Let me go back, all the way up. So that's Israel up through here, right? Gaza Strip's here, so it'll go up this way, and then you can go all the way up to Haifa right here, okay? Which is a port. So what that gives Israel is massive strategic importance, because guess what? They become essentially the Suez Canal, right? So instead of all the traffic going up here through rail, you can bring it up this way, and boats can pick up their stuff a la Haifa. And obviously, these central points are important to clean up, which means no problems, because this system will go up through here and all the way up here, right? So you have Gaza here and West Bank here. And from an Israeli standpoint, they really don't want any more ruckus there, right? Haifa is very important because the United States needs Israel for Haifa because the Sixth Fleet operates out of here. And if you just step back, the Sixth Fleet of the United States, you can see how strategic this is to manage the flow of stuff coming from the Black Sea, right? The Bosphorus, right? Turkey. It is the Middle East. It's a centerpiece right here, right? Between Asia and here. So everyone may not know this, but one of the things Netanyahu has been pushing is this massive rail system, high-speed rail system, which will be part, and I think it's going to cost, I forget how many, a couple hundred billion, I think 30 to 40 billion dollars US dollars. But it'll go all the way from here up. So why is this important? Well, first of all, it's going to be a serious threat to Egypt because it's going to take away their revenue. It puts Israel in a much more strategically viable position. Who's going to fund this? Well, the funding and the people who are going to build this is none other than China. This is central to China because China also wants to have a presence in Haifa here, which is very much against U.S. imperial interest, because if China is here in Haifa, right, a lot of Israelis believe that this is going to affect the desert, right, environment, et cetera. But fundamentally, no one is talking about this in the media that much. But the reality is that, first of all, Israel is very strategic. And that's why the British and the U.S. imperialists, during post-World War II, they wanted to create a ruckus there. Remember, the British policy of controlling resources, you create a divide and rule situation, you create some chaos, and then in the midst of that chaos, you get what you want. They did this in Africa and India. The Chinese model is you pump money in and you create alliances with people, right? You create alliances in terms of resources, et cetera. And that's what China is doing. So to people thinking, a lot of people think that China is, against imperialism. They're somehow going to help the Palestinians. But China sees an awesome opportunity for themselves here to do their, Belt Road, quote unquote, their Silk Road, right? From east to west. And they have an opportunity to bribe or, collude, create an unholy alliance with Israel. But if you look at that railroad, it's very, very dependent on making sure that Gaza and West Bank are in control, right? So it's a very, very important concept that people need to understand, because people have been, if you think China is quote unquote for working people and quote unquote communists, well, they're far from that. They're a state capitalist organization. And this Belt Road thing will probably be one of the most surveilled infrastructures. And many people rightfully argue that this is essentially a way for China to expand themselves as not just a regional power, but a global power. So I don't know how much you were aware of that, Chris, but it's stuff that I think people need to be aware of.
I was aware of the transport stuff. I did not know that they had been granted. On the record, called himself a Zionist and said exactly what you said. You do not have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. Zionism is a political ideology. It hides behind and tries to, I guess, intertwine itself with Judaism, to use Judaism as a quote-unquote human shield. But even the Jewish people understand that the Zionists are their worst enemy. Who's the ones that funded Hitler? It was Zionists. Who's the one? So they do not like Jewish people probably more than anybody, because Jewish people have an actual blood and DNA connection to the Abrahamic religion. Zionists do not. That's why they're whiter than I am, but somehow live in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's a very, very important point. I think, I can do a whole analysis on this, but if people just go do their own research, people can find since the 1900s and during World War II, the Zionists were extremely worked and collaborated with Nazis, and they needed anti-Semitism. They needed hatred of Jews, because then they could go to the Jews and say, see, you shouldn't be here. You should go over here. Join us. And for many, many years in the early 1930s, most of the Jews did not want to join Zionists. They thought these guys were nuts. I mean, you can read quotes even by Albert Einstein. He thought these guys were crazy. And they were a very, very small fringe group, which wasn't really supported by the broad mass of Jews. Many Jews saw the emergence of Hitler. They were building anti-fascist movements in Germany. And the Zionists actually backstabbed those Jewish movements against fascism. They struck deals with Hitler. They said, look, in fact, there's very interesting documents, and a lot of the documents are probably in Israel, behind lock and key. But those documents reveal a very close relationship, essentially saying, look, we both have the same interests. We both need anti-Semitism. We both, profit from the hatred of Jews, because the more Jews are hated, the more they're going to come to our movement, right? And the more you want them out. So the Zionists and the Nazis collaborated. As I've mentioned many times, people should on their own go research the Warsaw Ghetto riots, where Nazis literally, the Zionists collaborated with the Nazis to disarm the Jews, disarm them, undermine them. So they could not, and they were massive popular uprisings against the Nazis. So Jews were fighting Nazis. Zionists intervened to sabotage those militant, heroic fights of the Jewish people against the Nazis. So if you're Jewish, understand that it's time for you to wake the fuck up and denounce Zionism. That's why many of these protests right now, Chris, and I've seen this for 40 years. I've been involved in many, many activist movements, to support the victory of the Palestinian people. But the undermining goal here has been these liberal Zionists who take up the slogan, let's cease fire now, free Palestine. But they don't really want to free Palestine. They want to talk about ceasefire now. We don't want blood on our hands. These are the liberal Zionists who actually do not want to talk about Zionism. They know they have a guilt concept because they're sitting here in the United States. They know the U.S. Involvement is fucked up, but they do not want to attack Zionism. So the slogan should not be ceasefire now, because ceasefire now hasn't helped in 40 years. Ceasefire now, as I mentioned, means Israel gets to go 2 steps forward, then they go 1 step back. Then they get to go 2 steps forward, ceasefire now, 1 step back. The issue is we need to end the occupation of Israel and end the
paragliders can penetrate the Israeli border, which is the most monitored and secure border anywhere in the world. They would have been, and they definitely would not have been able to operate with impunity for hours behind enemy lines. So I want everybody to understand that Benjamin Netanyahu fully allowed that attack to happen. He allowed war crimes to be committed against his own people. And that is why there's protests so big in Israel against him that his massive security team could not keep them away from his own house. And they were chanting murderer and they were chanting jail, because all of them understand that he is using them as cannon fodder, just like the Palestinians are being used as cannon fodder. And they are profiting off of this every step of the way. And for you Americans that love Israel and you Americans that don't understand that you've been infiltrated like Dr. Shiva has been trying to tell you, well, let me just point something out. The people that funded both sides of World War II, the Zionist Rothschild banking dynasty and their friends, well, they also funded the British Crown way back in a time called 1776. And you guys fought a war against the Zionists and you won. And they realized that America could not be overtaken with guns and bullets. So they decided to occupy you, infiltrate you, and destroy you from within. And that is what they've been doing for years and years and years. A perfect example of the relationship between America and Israel is the fact that every single year, America borrows billions of dollars and gives it to Israel. Immediately starts paying interest payments on that new debt. Well, Israel puts that in a bank and gets interest on it. So imagine Dr. Shiva and me are friends. I take a loan, I give it to Dr. Shiva, and I have to pay back the loan. Well, Dr. Shiva can actually gain interest on the loan or invest that money. That is the relationship you guys have with Israel. And it's because, like he said, your government is beyond infiltrated by Zionist dual citizens with Israel. Imagine a senator, congressman that had dual citizenship with U.S. Iran, U.S. Russia, U.S. China, you guys would be up in arms. Meanwhile, dozens of people in the U.S. government with U.S. Israeli dual citizenship, and we're not supposed to mention it. We're not supposed to talk about AIPAC, which is the largest, most powerful lobby group in the world that literally makes people sign a pledge of Israel first. We're not supposed to talk about how every single president that gets elected has to make his pilgrimage to Israel, put on his little yarmulke, and kiss the wall. You think Benjamin Netanyahu is going to fly to Washington, D.C., put on a crucifix and go kneel before the altar and do the sign of the cross? I don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. So it's quite easy to see who the master is and who the slave is. The United States is unlimited source of money, weapons, war bodies, and UN vetoes for Israel. And Israel, their so-called greatest ally, is willing to make geopolitical allies with any...
That was that first portion of the video that I wanted to share with the mapping and such, and very, very clear, the level of clarity that Dr. Shiva presents his information for discussion or even debate. It is very eye-opening, and I really appreciate the way that he presents his information. So on that note of I was going to share his video, but it's just like way too long, on how he won a lawsuit against uncovering how the government and Twitter are connected, and that whole, and I'm still in a process of trying morphed videos of and just the whole making up of everything, and they're still wanting a full apology, but that's not happening. But many of the videos of the slanderous videos on him, of the morphed videos alleging rape, all of these other things have been taken down, and including Mom Nitya Mai, who was an actress for Bollywood and was used or weaponized by the media and the establishment because of the level of freedom Bhagavan Nityananda Paramashivam is talking about, which includes empowering everyone with third eye Kundalini powers, 460 powers of Mahadeva. And so when it comes to the cutting edge of that level of freedom, that level of it's a birthright. Even I stand on that cutting edge, and I grasp that the level of liberation that I'm requiring is a legitimate nation. And despite I don't really care for the UN, it is recognized by the UN as a nation. And so because as a nation, all of these different things that are taking place, blessings for Kailasa and for all Hindus. So for me, I enjoy Paramashivoham, and basically it's a spiritual retreat with different levels. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3, and they all start simultaneously, and you can work your way through the levels, and it's about spirituality, power manifestation. That's what we are talking about. Power manifestation, 460 powers of Mahadeva. And the next season season 7 starts on December 6th. You can go to paramashivoham.org to sign up. And literally, it's like a spiritual gymnasium or super mall. And just full power manifestation is where, for me, I just roll for everything. Roll your breakfast. So the other thing that happened today is Vaikunta Loka opens because Hindus live around the Hindu astrology. Right now is the for Vaikunta opening, and today we had the Venkateshwara Bhava Samadhi Darshan. I'm going to share the darshan, but you can also watch the full video the whole day, because what is Venkateshwara? Venkateshwara is the tricks in that will persistence. That's how you begin to change your life. And so with Parmashivoham, that is the training of that. Training of that happens, and for perpetuating those it's just a huge blessing for all of humanity, and I encourage everyone to attend Parmashivoham. To upgrade your life from where you're operating from.
श्रियकान्ताय कल्याण निधये निधयेत्तिनाम् श्रीवेङ्कटनिवासाय सर्वामय सौन्दर्य सम्पदा सर्वचेतसाम् सदा सम्मोहनायास्तु वेङ्कटेशाय मङ्गलम् नित्याय निरवध्याय सत्यानन्दचिदात्मने सर्वान्तरात्मने श्रीमद्वेङ्कटेशाय मङ्गलम् स्वतः सर्वविदे सर्वशक्तये सर्वशेषिने सुलभाय सुशीलाय वेङ्कटेशाय मङ्गलम् परस्मै ब्रह्मणे पूर्णकामाय परमात्मने प्रयुञ्जे परतत्त्वाय वेङ्कटेशाय मङ्गलम् प्रायश्वचरणौ पुंसां शरण्यत्वेन पाणिना कृपयातिशते श्रीमद्वेङ्कटेशाय मङ्गलम् सर्वार्तिशमनायास्तु वेङ्कटेशाय मङ्गलम् श्रीवैकुण्ठविरक्ताय स्वामी पुष्करिणीतटे रमया रममानाय वेङ्कटेशाय मङ्गलम् श्रीमत्सुन्दरजा मातृमुनिमानसवासिने सर्वलोकनिवासाय श्रीनिवासाय मङ्गलम् मङ्गलाशासनपरैर्मदाचार्य पुरोगमैः सर्व
వదనం మధురం నయనం మధురం హసితం మధురం హదరం మధురం వదనం మధురం హదరం మధురం వదనం మధురం నయనం మధురం హసితం మధురం నయనం మధురం హసితం మధురం హృదయం మధురం గమనం మధురం హృదయం మధురం గమనం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం వచనం మధురం చరితం మధురం వచనం మధురం చరితం మధురం వసనం మధురం ఫలితం మధురం వసనం మధురం ఫలితం మధురం చలితం మధురం భ్రమితం మధురం చలితం మధురం భ్రమితం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం వేణుర్మధురో రేణుర్మధురా వేణుర్మధురో రేణుర్మధురా పాణిర్మధురా పాదో మధురో పాణిర్మధురా పాదో మధురో నృత్యం మధురం సఖ్యం మధురం నృత్యం మధురం సఖ్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం గీతం మధురం పీతం మధురం గీతం మధురం పీతం మధురం భుక్తం మధురం సుప్తం మధురం భుక్తం మధురం సుప్తం మధురం రూపం మధురం తిలకం మధురం రూపం మధురం తిలకం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం హరణం మధురం ధరణం మధురం హరణం మధురం ధరణం మధురం హరణం మధురం రమణం మధురం హరణం మధురం రమణం మధురం వమితం మధురం శమితం మధురం వమితం మధురం శమితం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం గుంజా మధురా మాలా మధురా గుంజా మధురా మాలా మధురా కరుణా మధురం పూజా మధురం కరుణా మధురం పూజా మధురం పీతం మధురం విడితి మధురం పీతం మధురం విడితి మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం వృత్తం మధురం లీలా మధురం వృత్తం మధురం లీలా నిత్యాధిపతే నిత్యం మధురం नासी मधुरं भस्मं मधुरं नासी मधुरं भस्मं मधुरं रुद्राक्षा मधुरं ज्ञानं मधुरं रुद्राक्षा मधुरं ज्ञानं मधुरं भक्ति मधुरं दृष्टि मधुरं भक्ति मधुरं दृष्टि मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं मौनं मधुरं गानं मधुरं मौनं मधुरं गानं मधुरं रक्षा मधुरम् अरुणा मधुरं रक्षा मधुरम् अरुणा मधुरं शरणं मधुरं शरणं मधुरं शरणं मधुरं शरणं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं शक्ति मधुरं दर्शन मधुरं शक्ति मधुरं दर्शन मधुरं योगा मधुरं यागं मधुरं योगा मधुरं यागं मधुरं भावं मधुरं सुष्मितं मधुरं भावं मधुरं सुष्मितं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं विमलं मधुरं कुशलं मधुरं विमलं मधुरं कुशलं मधुरं केशवं मधुरं नित्यं मधुरं केशवं मधुरं नित्यं मधुरं विनयं मधुरं फलं मधुरं विनयं मधुरं फलितं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरम् अभयं मधुरं चरणं मधुरम् अभयं मधुरं चरणं मधुरं नेत्रं मधुरं गात्रं मधुरं नेत्रं मधुरं गात्रं मधुरं स्मरणं मधुरं सर्वं मधुरं स्मरणं मधुरं सर्वं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्यं मधुरं नित्याधिपते नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद अच्युतं नित्य केशवं कृष्ण वासुदेवं भजे श्रीधरं सद्गुरु नित्य नायकं परमहंस श्रीनितीश्वरं केशवा मुकुन्द माधवा नित्य नारायण माधवा मधुसूदन मुरली मनोहर नित्य पुरीश्वर केशवा मुकुन्द माधवा नित्य नारायण माधवा मधुसूदन मुरली मनोहर नित्य पुरीश्वर भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद वासुदेव नित्य नंदन नित्य नित्येश्वर नित्येश्वर जय गुरुनाथ शिव गुरुनाथ ओम जय नित्य गुरुनाथ हाल हालधर हे परमेश गंगाधर नित्य शंकर हे शिव शंकर हे शिवनंदन नित्यानंद निज रूपणे हाल हालधर हे परमेश गंगाधर नित्य शंकर हे शिव शंकर हे शिवनंदन नित्यानंद निज रूपणे भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद नित्य गुरुनाथ शिव गुरुनाथ नित्य पुरीश नित्येश्वर दीन दयाल सच्चिदानंद शरणं शरणं नित्य गुरुनाथ जय हरि विठ्ठल श्री नित्य विठ्ठल 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 नित्य विठ्ठल जय हरि कृष्ण श्री हरि नित्य ब्रह्मा विष्णु नित्येश्वर जय हरि विठ्ठल श्री नित्य विठ्ठल 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 नित्य विठ्ठल जय हरि कृष्ण श्री हरि नित्य ब्रह्मा विष्णु नित्येश्वर भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद अच्युतं नित्य केशवं कृष्ण वासुदेवं भजे श्रीधरं सद्गुरु नित्य नायकं परमहंस श्रीनितीश्वर केशवा मुकुन्द माधवा नित्य नारायण माधवा मधुसूदन मुरली मनोहर नित्य पुरीश्वर केशवा मुकुन्द माधवा नित्य नारायण माधवा मधुसूदन मुरली मनोहर नित्य पुरीश्वर भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो नित्य गोविंद नित्य गोविंद भजो
So that was Venkatesha Darshan the powerful cognitions through the day is a upgrading of your decision making matrix. For today, it was in the wealth dimension of life, and when the darshan happens, it's Swamiji channeling the deity Venkateshwara to bless everyone, opening that portal of Vaikunta. And after darshan is when there's a lot of the power manifestation trainings that happen. And so with the power manifestation trainings, depending on the deity or depending on the day, there's 460 powers of Mahadeva, and those powers are trained or practiced. So we're going to be going into unclutching meditation. Because of how late it is, I'm just going to not do power manifestation today for the evening. But because unclutching is more important than power manifestation for this video series that I'm doing to unclutch, return to center.
This technique is not even to be practiced every day. No. This is supposed to be practiced effortlessly, internalized effortlessly. Suddenly at one day, you will unclutch. From the very desire of holding on to this body, you will just unclutch. Now, close your eyes. For a few minutes, I'll guide you how to consider the desires and how to suddenly unclutch from it before your mind brings any argument. Please close your eyes. Sit in a relaxed way. If some desires are arising in you, maybe desire to open your eyes or desire to move your body, any desire, just see that desire. Don't judge. There may be so many desires. Do not witness. Do not judge. Do not say right or wrong. Do not suppress. Just see. Don't say, don't think, your desire is right or wrong. Just see it. Let your eyes be closed. Let them come. When desires arise, let them happen. Let all the desires arise in you. Don't suppress them. Don't judge them. Don't say they are right or wrong. Just let them happen. Consider. Let them happen. suddenly, before even your mind recognizes, unclutch from all the desire and relax. Do not argue. Do not logically decide. Do not decide based on right or wrong. Just unclutch from all the thoughts. Let your eyes be closed. Just unclutch from all the thoughts. Anything comes up, just unclutch. Just disconnect. Don't judge. Don't say it is right. Don't say it is wrong. Just disconnect. Unclutch. Satchidanandam. Relax. Slowly, very slowly.
Thank you for attending today. Close with prayer for peace and oneness, peace for you, peace for me, and global peace. You're welcome to say the prayer of your tradition. For me, I prefer silence. Thank you. Have a good evening. Aloha. Nityanandam.